Hey everybody, we are back in the Shanty. So a couple of weeks ago, we talked about the governor's new My Vacc to Normal challenge. And today, we're going to talk about hitting a milestone. You'll recall that she set 4 milestones that we had to hit. And as we hit those milestones in people getting the first dose of the vaccine, she was going to start to lift some of the requirements under the MIOSHA emergency rule and the MDHHS gathering orders. And the first step that we had to get to was 55% of people age 16 or older in the state of Michigan getting their first shot of the COVID-19 vaccine, and then she was going to lift the remote work order, which is part of the MIOSHA emergency rules. So today, well, actually by the time you see this, it will have been yesterday because you won't see it until tomorrow. It's like an Austin Powers movie. I can't follow it, but you know what I'm talking about. On the 10th of May, Michigan hit the 55% milestone, which was step number 1 in the My Vacc to Normal challenge. And the governor, as politicians are wont to do these days, announced it in a tweet. She didn't just announce it in a tweet. There was a press release too, a traditional press release, but she announced it in a tweet. And I'm guessing, looking at the screenshot of the tweet, you know how when you watch these videos, sometimes before you start them, there's my face and it's in some weird, because that's where the video stopped and it's what it captured. It's kind of what we've got with the governor's tweet here. There's a little video on it, and it caught her, with her eyes half open. She looks kind of like she's sleeping. Not the best picture of the governor I've ever seen. Let's just say that. But the governor had some really good news, so let's talk about the really good news and not her picture. She said the following: I'm excited to announce that 55% of Michiganders have gotten their first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. This is a huge milestone in getting #MyVacc to normal, and means that on May 24, we can return to in-person work. If you haven't yet, please schedule a vaccine appointment today. End quote. That's a great piece of news. That means on May 10th, today, on May 10th, we hit 55%. And according to the Michigan Coronavirus Dashboard, 4,455,395 Michigan residents age 16 or over have 1 or more dose of the COVID vaccine, and that's 55.02%. Well, the governor didn't waste any time at all getting that announcement out. We got over 55 and boom. Now, the other thing the governor did is she set a date. She said on May 24, we're going to be able to return to in-person work. Now, you might recall 2 weeks ago when we talked about this, I told you there was kind of a little get-out clause in there where the state had said, look, we're going to lift this order, but if new case rates are above 250 per million population on a 7-day average at the time of implementation, MIOSHA can delay allowing people to come back to work. They haven't done that. The governor set a date in her tweet, the 24th of May, which is 2 weeks from yesterday. People can come back to work. That's a good sign. Now, if you go to the dashboard again, you'll see that case rates are on a 7-day average have been falling for about 30 days. And at least today, even though the data is incomplete, they're significantly below 250 per million population. So that's a good thing. That's very exciting. It's a good thing. And people can start going back to work 2 weeks from now. There's a couple things I want you to remember. That means that they're going to lift that part of the MIOSHA emergency rule that required remote work. You remember that rule. I can't remember the rule number, but it's a specific rule in the emergency rule that says you have to have a policy prohibiting in-person work where remote work is feasible. That's what they're lifting, not the whole emergency rule. So that means, at least as far as we know right now, and unless there's changes in the next 2 weeks, that means you still have to screen, you still have to require face masks, and you still have to require face masks when you're in shared spaces. So screening has to still be done. Face masks when you can't maintain social distancing, and face masks in shared areas of the office spaces. And all the other rules that are in the rule. The only part that gets lifted is the remote work rule. But hey, that's a step in the right direction. And Sean Egan has said and Sean Egan's the head of MyOSHA, he has said over and over and over, the rules are flexible enough that we can modify them or rescind them completely. So we might start seeing some other changes. For example, I saw today that Dr. Fauci supposedly said it might be time to start lifting some of the face mask rules for people who are fully vaccinated, even indoors. For those of you that don't like the masks, that would be a good thing. If you're fully vaccinated, it's another incentive to go get your shot, right? I can take the mask off if I don't like the mask. So we might see some changes over the next 2 weeks. But as of right now, at least, what we do know is the work from home order is coming off, but everything else is staying in place. So as you communicate with your employees, you might want to remind them of that. Here's what we're coming back to work on this day. And remember, you don't have to bring them back on the 24th, but the 24th is your early date now. That's what you can start planning for. I know some companies are saying, well, we're planning for the 4th of July, and we have been, so we're going to go with the 4th of July. Whatever. The 24th is your date now, your early date, that you can get them back. But as you're communicating with employees about what you want to do, you're going to have to remind them of some of these things. Remind them about you still have to screen, you still have to do the face masks, blah, blah, blah. All right? So that's that. Come on, that's good news. That's good news number one, right? Good news number two is many Michigan counties, many. I don't know exactly how many. I know there's some. Michigan counties have once again begun shortening the quarantine period. You'll recall that back on April 5th, so a month and 5 weeks ago, the state of Michigan went back to a full 14-day quarantine. And you'll also recall that the CDC has consistently given local health authorities the option of shortening the quarantine. They said 14 days is the gold standard, but you can shorten it in these certain circumstances down to 10 days, or there was 7 days with a test. Michigan never adopted that, but down to 10 days as long as the individual remained asymptomatic. And this is for quarantine for people who have been in close contact. What we're seeing now, and I'm sure it's a result of the reduced case rates and going in the right direction, is that some individual counties, and they have this authority, have dialed back the quarantine to 10 days. Now, I can't give you a list of which counties. You will have to check, or you'll have to check for an individual county. But some counties have dialed it back based on the case rate. So what you probably want to do is, if you've got a lot of people that are out quarantining right now, you might want to check with your local health department to see where they are with respect to their quarantine rules. Are we back down to 10 days, or are we still at 14 days? I also want to caution you to be a little bit careful about the websites, because the counties will tell you they're up to date, but some are better than others at keeping them up to date. So we got a couple pieces of really good news today. I'm glad I can bring it to you. I'll see you all in 2 weeks.